Hey folks, Jesse here from Onion Grass Gardens, and I'm here to talk to you today about the ways that planting a food forest, even just first year, I'm in my first year of converting this little 3-year-old orchard into a food forest, how that has changed my thinking, my attitudes, my emotions toward myself as a gardener. So let's get to it. One of the first ways my thought process has changed is all around time frame. When you're planting an annual garden, and that's your garden with your plants that you have to plant every year, your tomatoes and cucumbers and the things you every year you have to till up the ground and plant again. The way that a food forest has changed my thinking on time frame is that I am now planting more perennials than ever. I'm planting fruit trees. I'm planting asparagus and artichoke, blueberries, raspberries, things of that nature. And the time frame has changed. This cherry is currently 3 years old and has not given me a piece of fruit. But I'm not worried about that because I know that sometime in the next several years it will start to bear fruit. And that time frame doesn't worry me because I'm not just gardening for this year. I am now gardening for my lifetime. And that's where a food forest has really changed my thought process. I am trying to build sort of an infrastructure of food because I'm building a garden that mimics the way a forest grows. I have to look at the longevity of that garden as a forest and not as a thing I replant every year. I'm also looking at it across the course of my lifetime. When we bought this property, we had no intention to move. That is still our intention. We have no intention to move for the rest of our lives. And as such, we can now build. And even though right now in my 40s, of course, I want cherries. I would love for this tree here to be giving me cherries. But it's okay that it doesn't this year because next year's Jessie wants cherries. And in fact, Jessie for the next 30 years of her life wants cherries. So the fact that this hasn't bore any fruit yet doesn't matter this year because I'm building for the years to come. Hey, have you liked and subscribed? Just gotta push a button like that. Yeah. And then you can learn about all the exciting videos that are coming up. Also, you can look at some of the past videos. I have one on my tomato failures. I started them from seed. They failed. This is the second bit. Yeah, so you could learn about that video up there. Also, I have a different kind of attitude and philosophy towards failure, and you could also learn about that video. Also up there. I'll make sure they're linked. At any rate, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Now, I don't know if you've done the math on food. I don't know if you've done the math on how much do you currently spend on food, or the math of how many pounds of food a human being needs per year in order to survive, and on average, how much those pounds cost. But I've been doing math. I'm not going to give you the answer, I'm just going to give you the question. This is something that you should investigate for your household and your number of people and the needs that the people of your household have. But these fruit trees I am looking at as an investment. They are part of my retirement. Now, they are not a financial investment in the sense that they are making money, but they are a financial investment in that they will be saving me money in pounds of food that I otherwise would have to pay for every year. Well, I'm not going to pay for these cherries when they start coming. And so one of the ways that I'm looking at this food forest is as an investment. It's an investment in my future, in my family's future. And so I am growing the kinds of things that I am anticipating that my family will want and need in the future years. So that's definitely a different shift of mindset, um, as opposed to looking at an annual garden where you're just thinking about, what am I planting this year? What do I want to eat this year? And if you're not a gardener yet, if you're still just investigating the idea of gardening, then you know that is something that it's a different mindset. Most people think about what they want to eat today or next week, and not what they want to eat when they're 70. So, um, and again, that comes back to the time frame, right? I'm looking at a different time frame because I'm planting more perennials, and I'm still planting annuals. I probably have at least 12 tomatoes in here, but that's not my focus, because my focus is looking at this like a building project and building it for our future. As an example of the longevity that I'm talking about in the different time frame, this is the forest behind our house, and I'm going to show you one of my new trees. It's actually right here in front of us, although you can't see it yet because it is so tiny. This right here is a native pecan. I got this from the Tennessee Environmental Council. They had a tree day in which they were selling native trees. This is a native, for $3.99 or $4.99. So I got this tree for less than $5. Now this tree is not very tall, as you can tell. I will not get a pecan off of this for 7 to 10 years. But I can tell you that 50-year-old Jesse wants pecans. And so does 60-year-old and 70-year-old and 80-year-old Jesse. So I'm willing to wait for this little guy to get as big as the rest of these. Because I'm looking at my garden as a building project, and as a building project across my lifetime, I also don't have to worry if I don't finish this year. So far this year, I have planted 22 trees, about half of which are natives and about half of which are food producing. I've planted a bunch of asparagus, I've planted a bunch of artichokes, blueberries, Nanking cherries, etc. Not all the space is filled because we have a budget. But in the future, as we propagate more of our own plants from the plants that we have, and as we buy things here and there, the spaces are going to fill. But the point is that I'm not worried if I don't finish my garden this year. I don't have to run around. Like when I was planting an annual garden, oh my God, you run around with your head cut off in May just trying to get everything in before it's too late. And now I'm gardening across my lifetime. I don't have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off. I can take my time, which I need because I'm a gardener who works with chronic pain, and I can only work for about 2 hours at a time, and then I'm done for the day. So this is not something that I can do full time. I can't work 8 hours a day at this. So the fact that I have time on my side makes this a much better garden for me. Finally, I want to talk about the emotional aspect of gardening. This here's a rhubarb that's just doing beautiful. And that is, I'm much happier with myself as a gardener gardening this way. There's an Nanking cherry that I put in this year. And the reason is that the things that I have started putting in the ground, I've been planting since February. And I've been planting things like rhubarb and asparagus and irises and Nanking cherries. And all of these things are food for the future. And I feel very satisfied with the progress I've made because I'm not just planting for this year. I'm planting for every year. And because I have that shift in my mindset about when I am gardening for, I am a lot more satisfied with my progress. This is an artichoke here. This will probably take 2 to 3 years before we harvest anything off of that. And so I'm much more happy with myself as a gardener because I can just keep planting and keep planting, but I'm not going to replant these things. These are strawberries, and these are just going to spread. In fact, they are spreading already. Look at this. This one has sent out runners. It's got one here. Gonna get another one at the end there. And these things are going to reproduce all on their own to give me more strawberries next year. And so I can be more satisfied with my progress because I've done the work that needs doing only once. And now I can build on that. And that makes me a lot happier as a gardener.